And welcome to the ETBU Coaches Show, sponsored by Hometown Tire here in Marshall. This is the very first ETBU Coaches Show with head football coach Brian Mayper. Coach, welcome to the show for 2019.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Coach, you're about 2 weeks into preseason now, heading into your first full game week. Tell us a little bit about how the preseason practices have gone this year.
Well, it's been very hot. We've had to go up to the grass. I think one day it was clocked in about 135 on the turf.
Wow.
So that, but they've been energetic. The guys have been moving around fast. It's been a lot of fun. We talked about in the spring. It was fun coaching the guys. We're all moving in the same direction. So it's been great. New guys are learning what they're doing, and the old guys are setting the example.
And during preseason, we saw that maybe you had like a slip and slide contest.
We had I told them we were about to run and do a whole bunch of stuff, kind of like the Navy SEALs. I was going to test them. Told them there'd be a lot of water. Didn't tell them we'd be sliding down the hill, but yeah, so that was fun. Couldn't really pre-test it because they'd see what it was. So when I went down first, it was kind of wide open. Who knows what was going to happen?
So you took the plunge first.
I took the plunge first, but then they all followed me, so we'd all been injured together.
Did they all run back up the hill and do it again?
A bunch of them did.
That sounds like a great time. What else did you kind of do during preseason? Did you take them to church, have meals? What did you kind of do some of the team bonding stuff this year?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. We take them to a couple different churches so they get to see that. Our discipleships with our groups, we started those individual meetings so they get to learn. We're doing the book of Daniel, so it's been really good. But yeah, just different stuff like that. It's a little different this year because school started. I mean, we were 4 practicing in and school starts, so there wasn't a lot of time.
Yeah, with the new Division III rule and how it was, so you had to adjust that a little bit. Also this year, you have your first full-time staff that you have this year after your first year. Tell us a little about the staff that you have this year.
Oh yeah, so let's see, Coach Gibson, Vance Gibson joined us in the spring. I'd worked for Coach Gibson for about 12 years, and he's moved over to the offensive line. Coach Scott went to Nacogdoches High School, so glad to have Vance over there on the offensive line. Coach Gibson, Kobe Gibson, came from Howard Payne. He's been an East Texas guy and does a tremendous job recruiting and is doing a super job with our defensive line. Who else is new? Greg Liberty came in. He was at Thiel College last year, so if you've watched any commercials, Thiel College is the one with the Coke commercial. So they were kind of on a downward slide, but he had been several different places, a lot of high school, ex-military guys, so he does a really good job, strong spiritually for our guys. Morgan Ford is a graduate assistant working with our corners. Mason Ruzika, yes, the son of Coach Rue, a little shorter on the hair, but he's helping out with the linebackers, doing a super job there. And I think that is it.
And then Austin Ashley will be back.
And Austin Ashley has moved from a student position to a graduate assistant, working with our tight ends now.
So you got your staff solidified this year. That's your staff after your first full year and going into the first game week. So let's talk a little bit about heading into this game week. Before we get to Wisconsin Platteville, you got a long trip up there. So you guys are busting up there. Tell us a little about the trip going up there and what you guys are going to do.
Well, we're going to go up and stop off and practice at Arkansas State. It's about a 6-hour drive from here. So that gets us, I guess they're going to be sleeping. We're taking off at 6 in the morning. We'll practice there at Arkansas State. Coach Anderson is a good friend of mine, and Coach Conley, the operations guy, is a good friend. In fact, Coach Conley had coached for Coach Gibson at Howard Payne a long time ago, and so did Coach Anderson. So we'll practice there, so it'll be a good treat just to be in a different stadium, a Division I stadium for our guys to kind of feel that. And then we head up to St. Louis. Unfortunately, there's not a baseball game until that night, the following night, so we're not going to be able to catch a game. And then we looked at a place to do our walkthrough on Friday. The Rams' old stadium, it was a little costly. So we're looking at the arch, and the arch is basically 250 yards wide. It's a national park. Called them up, and said, can we do something with our football team there? And they said, it's a national park. You can do whatever you want to. So
Nice.
we'll have a walk through under the arch. So that should be kind of a treat there. And there's a zoo there. We'll kind of walk, get our legs a little bit on Friday, then head up to Davenport, spend the night in Davenport, wake up the next morning, and head to Platteville.
Sounds like a fun trip for these guys to start the year off with. So now getting up there, you've seen Platteville before. Last year was the first time we played them overall. This year, return trip up there. What do you kind of know about them this year heading into this week when you go up into a cooler atmosphere in Wisconsin to play?
There's nothing like going from 100-degree temperatures to 70. I think right now it's slated for 71 at kickoff time, so that'll be nice. But yeah, just know that they're pretty similar to us in their conference as we are in our conference right now, based off the past experiences. They have Whitewater and La Crosse, who predominantly have been 1 and 2. Obviously, here in our conference, it's been Mary Hardin-Baylor and Hardin-Simmons. So very similar teams trying to find a way to get over the edge to break into those top 2. Very competitive. The difference is they're just big guys. I think we have a little bit more speed, but they're bigger, so it'll be one of the best opponents we face all year.
Some more farm boys up there.
No, yes.
So now focusing a little more on the 2019 team. You had a lot of seniors graduate last year, a lot of big holes to fill. You had a large recruiting class come in with these coaches. Tell us a little bit about the overall team and what you see going into this week.
I see a lot of guys that have kind of stepped up in some roles. Some guys that weren't in the mix last year that have really done a good job during fall camp. Worked really hard during the spring to get in position to play. One guy, for example, is Chap Jessica. I mean, was not in the mix last year, and he's a sophomore now. He's lost some weight, got quicker, and is going to do a pretty good job on the defensive line as we rotate through there. Obviously, losing the defensive line guys we lost, it's big that we get some guys step up, but Reed and Brewster and Morgan all played last year, so excited to have those guys. And we got other guys that have been probably about 2.5 deep across the defensive line that we feel really good about. Offensive line was obviously a concern because you lose 2 guys, and Bryson and Tony that were tremendous for this level. So, I mean, other guys have stepped up. Like every year, someone's going to step in and play. I think we're traveling 2.5 deep in the offensive line. So, luckily, we really hadn't been injury-free anywhere. So that's been a big help. Obviously, Baca back at quarterback is big. Receiver-wise, it's probably going to be the most noticeable change because obviously, when you have 3 seniors that started and played the whole time, you're going to have new guys in those spots. But again, Maurice Morris had played a lot at the slot position, especially in the year. He'll be in there. Had a couple transfers come in, and they're working hard. I mean, we have a lot more depth than we had last year, so feel really good about that. Then tight end, Jake is back at tight end starting. He's doing a great job. Running backs, I mean, we couldn't be more happy with our running backs. Probably about 5-6 deep at running back, which is a good problem to have versus just having 1 or 2. Last year we had 3 we felt really good about. Now we have probably about 5 or 6 we feel really good about for competition. And then linebacker-wise, that's probably going to be our biggest improvement, I think. We have AC coming back at outside backer, and then just guys that have stepped in and made plays. Donovan coming back at Mike backer. Couple transfers in there, so it's going to be good to see them. And then secondary-wise, same thing. Lost some safeties, but have other guys step up and take on that role. So really excited about the secondary also.
Well, we're excited to start the season up there and see what happens with the team. And I know you put together a good recruiting class and gelled these guys. So let's shift to, you've got all these guys in. You talked a little bit about discipleship. Tell us a little bit about Hennitas and Discipleship and what you're doing this year with them. Okay,
again, Hennitas, for those that don't know, is in Ephesians twice. It basically means unity. They're talking about the church body, but for us, that's our purpose. Purpose is to be unified as a team. People say it in different ways, all in, being a family, stuff like that, but That's our word. Number one, it sparks conversation when someone sees it on the shirt. What does that mean? And so you get to disciple and explain the love of Christ to them that way. So that's really big. And then we've talked to them about grinding. When we grind, that's kind of our pillars to get to being unified as a team. Putting God first is the first thing that we're going to do in everything we do. Having a relentless pursuit of excellence. We got to relentlessly pursue what we want to on the field, off the field, in our spiritual life. Eyes intensity. I mean, we got to be intense in everything as far as we have to have an intense focus. We got to know what we're doing every single play, because every play is going to make a difference, and outside of football too. N stands for nothing before team. Basically, it's getting rid of all unselfish motives. So that we can be unified, so you put the other's needs ahead of yours. And then D stands for discipline. We're going to be disciplined in everything we do. We're going to run fast the ball. We're going to play assignments. We're going to get to class on time. We're going to study. We're going to be participants in class and in our discipleship. So, I mean, that's kind of our foundation of how we get to be unified. And then it all sums up in our verse, not changing the X. I think it tells us exactly what we are. Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourself. If you do those things, I mean, love is the ultimate law. I mean, if we love each other, we don't have any needs for anything else. Love's the answer for everything. So, again, it sums up what we're about.
Well, it sounds like you're headed in the right direction, Coach. Your second year here, you got a full year under your belt now. First full recruiting class, first big road trip coming up. So, Coach, thanks for talking to us today here on the Coaches Show. Thanks for tuning in today on GoETBUtigers.com. This has been the ETBU Coaches Show with head football coach Brian Mayper, sponsored by Hometown Tire. Check it out again next week. We'll be back here to talk with Coach Mayper actually in 2 weeks, as next week will be their bye week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk more football here on the ETBU Sportsnet on www.goetbutigers.com.